Hello everyone, Sam here. So on this plant walk I've come out to forage for one of the most famous herbal medicines in the world, hawthorn berry. So we're all familiar with hawthorn berry because it explodes in late summer and autumn in Britain and Europe and lots of other parts of the world. But it's famous because it's one of the most, it's the most powerful evidence-based heart remedy herbal medicine on the planet. We're so fortunate that we have hawthorn growing so prolifically around us because it's one of the top selling herbal medicines in the world. The impact upon hawthorn upon keeping our heart and vascular system strong and healthy and vibrant is absolutely profound. In clinic, if we're managing high cholesterol or high blood pressure or palpitations or arrhythmias or things like that, anything to do with the heart, then hawthorn berry is the herb that we turn to without exception. It's not just the most powerful heart herb in terms of European herbal medicine, it's the most powerful heart herb in global herbal medicine. And I think for the home herbalist, it's one of those herbs we just need to go out, forage and make medicine from. When I get home, I'll go through the indications and uses of hawthorn in a lot more detail and go through some amazing recipes. But the key thing about hawthorn is as a prophylactic, as a preventative, taking a small amount every day to keep the heart in absolute tip-top condition. Because if you think about heart disease as being the Western world's biggest killer, in terms of human longevity and health optimization, if we keep our heart strong and our vascular system strong, then we do away with a big risk factor for reducing our longevity. So really, I think it's one of the most important herbs to forage for. The hawthorn berry leather, which we'll show you how to make later on, is a must-have. Make it, take a small piece every day. It's profoundly preventative of all kind of heart problems. So here's the hawthorn berry bush tree. You can see it has the three-lobed leaves, and it obviously has the explosion of red berries, which you can see all around here, like that. So I'm sure most of you know what the hawthorn tree looks like. So when I get home, I'll talk through the detailed indications for using it. It's got lots of other benefits other than just heart health, and I'll show you how to make some medicines from it.
Hello everyone, so I'm now back home with my hawthorn berries. So I just want to spend a little bit of time talking a little bit more about the medicinal properties of hawthorn, and then we're going to make the hawthorn berry leather. I think a must have, must make foraging recipe. So like I said earlier when I was out in the fields, hawthorn, if we think hawthorn, we think heart. Okay, so I think the reason I'm such a big fan of the hawthorn berry leather is that as a prophylactic, it just makes so much sense. You make it, you keep it in the fridge, and you just have a small square every day. And I think that's just it should just be a standard part of our life. It should just be a key self-care practice, because to my mind, there's no herb or food on the planet that has the heart protecting benefits of hawthorn. So make the hawthorn berry leather and use the hawthorn berry leather as a prophylactic, as a preventative for all cause heart disease, whether it's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, strokes, arrhythmias, heart attacks, things like that. It can also be used, you can use hawthorn berry to manage those problems. If you've got high cholesterol, if you've got a family risk of stroke, a family risk of heart disease, heart attacks, arrhythmias, palpitations, then use hawthorn berry to manage that risk. I think it's so important. But hawthorn berry has other medicinal and therapeutic properties above and beyond the physical heart and the cardiovascular system. And in traditional European and British herbal medicine, hawthorn berry was always classified in terms of healing the physical heart, like we've spoken about, but also the emotional heart. So it's a powerful mind and nerve and mood tonic, and it has a particular affinity for what we would classify as disorders of the heart, the emotional heart. So things like heartache, a broken heart, so going through things like grief, bereavement, if we're going through relationship stresses, divorce, those kinds of things. It helps to buffer us against the damaging effects and damaging impacts of stress, anxiety, grief, bereavement. It's an emotional pick-me-up. It's also an adaptogen, so it buffers us against these damaging emotional states. It elevates mood, it elevates psychological well-being, psychological energy, and emotional vitality. So it's an all-in-one mind and emotion tonic herb. So physical heart, like we've spoken about, but also emotional heartache. Hawthorn berry is also an excellent anti-inflammatory. It's a very powerful anti-inflammatory, and its anti-inflammatory properties in part explain why it's such a good heart tonic herb, because by reducing inflammation in the arteries, you reduce the risk factor for lots of different arterial disease. But those anti-inflammatory properties are also great for the musculoskeletal system. In fact, it's one of the most powerful herbs for managing inflammation in the musculoskeletal system. So whether it's gout, it's brilliant for gout, it's brilliant for osteoarthritis, it's great for bursitis, tendonitis, tennis elbow, repetitive strain injuries, damage to tendons and ligaments and muscles. Anything where there's pain and inflammation in the muscles or skeletal system or connective tissue or joints, Hawthorn berry is going to really help bring down that inflammation, and through doing so bring down the severity of the pain. And lastly, Hawthorn berry is a female tonic herb. It's a gynecological herb. And we use it in clinic all the time in that capacity, and it has a particular affinity for the menopause. It's a menopause hormone balancing powerhouse of a herb, particularly for heat-based ailments. It's great for night sweats, hot flushes and flashes, those kinds of things. It helps balance the emotional dysfunction that can come with the menopause. Things like low mood, depression, lethargy, those kinds of things. And it's also a famous aphrodisiac. It's been used as an aphrodisiac for hundreds and hundreds of years. It increases sexual energy, libido. It's used to manage infertility. Okay, so 4 main areas of use. Primarily the physical heart, the emotional heart and emotional health, gynecology and inflammation in the musculoskeletal system. In the herb profile section of the Ayurvedic Mentor website, you'll see a profile designated to Hawthorn, and in there's lots of detailed information about the uses of Hawthorn, and also loads of recipes for how to make tinctures and how to dry it. Also check out the Hawthorn berry ketchup, a brilliant savoury recipe. But what I want to make today is the Hawthorn berry leather. To my mind, the most useful and important remedy to make with hawthorn berries. So I've come home with a big bowl of hawthorn berries. To speed up the demo, I've pre-cooked them. Okay, so to make the hawthorn berry leather, the first thing you need to do is weigh your hawthorn berries. So I had 700 grams of berries. I put the berries into a saucepan, and then you add half the volume of weight. So 700 grams of berries equals 350 mils of water. Okay, if you had a kilo, then you put in 500 mils. If you've got 500 grams, you'd have 250 mils. Okay, so half the volume of water. You pour that over the berries, then you put it onto simmer on a low heat on the hob for about 20 minutes, 20-25 minutes, until the berries are all mushy and they lose their colour. They go slightly green. All the redness is extracted out. And you've got this kind of the cooked berries in the water. Once you've got that, so this is what I've done, that's where I've got to at this point, just to speed up the process. So that's been simmering for 20 minutes. So now you want to get a potato masher and you want to give the berries a really good mash, like you would with mashed potato, to help extract the flesh of the berry and the skin of the berry, where all the medicinal properties are, from the pit in the middle. Okay, so you want to give it a really good mash. You don't want to kind of whiz past this approach, this step of the recipe, because this is where you get all the goodness. Okay, and I had 700 grams of berries, like I said, but we've got lots more that we're going to make into Hawthorn Berry Leather later on today, because if you're making this, it makes sense to batch cook them. You make a lot in one go while you've got everything here, rather than just making a small batch like this. So once we've done this, we're going to make, you know, enough Hawthorn Berry Leather to last us for most of winter probably. So give that a really good mash. If you find yours is a little bit too stodgy or too thick, or there's not enough liquid in there, you can get a little bit of water and just pour it in, just to make it a little bit runnier. Or likewise, if yours is too runny because you've added too much water, just keep on simmering it on the hob for a little bit longer. So once you've mashed it, you'll have a saucepan filled with mushy, browny, ready liquid. Okay, and I might just add a little bit more water into that. And then all you need to do is get a glass bowl with a fine gauged sieve over the top, and then pour your berry mixture into that saucepan, into the sieve rather, like so. So you can see there the consistency and colour of it, and then you just want to press through with a spoon or a fork as much liquid as you can. You want to get all the liquid and all the pulp through the sieve into the bowl beneath it. Okay, and when you're doing this properly rather than for a demonstration, it takes a bit of time. Okay, you've really got to work it all through. You can be doing this for a good 15-20 minutes to get all the liquid through. You can see it coming through now. If I lift that up, you can see the liquid pouring coming through as I press it in. But I'm not going to do it for that long now, because there's no need to. It's just going to bore everyone. But what I'm saying is, when you do this yourself, just make sure you spend the time pressing all the liquid through, so you get as much of the medicinal properties as you can. Or you can use a flat spoon and press it through, and that will give you a little bit more surface area to press the pulp through the sieve. So if you imagine you've been doing that for, however many minutes, what you'll be left with is a jar full or a bowl full of the Hawthorn berry fruit extract. And then all you need to do, so you've got two options. Once you've got that filled up with your pulp, you've got two options. One is you get a baking tray lined with baking paper, and you pour the fruit leather onto the baking tray in strips. Okay, but that can often be a little bit more trickier. You need to ideally fill the baking tray up, because you don't want the fruit leather to be more than about 3 or 4 millimeters high, or else it won't dehydrate in the oven. We prefer to use silicone baking trays, because that way you can standardize the depth. So all you would do is get your spoon and just pour into each little muffin case about 5 mils, 3 to 5 mils of the berry mixture. Give it a mix, because that way it's a lot easier to standardize the depth of them, because if they go too thick, you can't dehydrate them without cooking them, and you don't want to cook them because you're going to lose the medicinal properties. So they don't want to be 5 mil, half a centimetre is the maximum height you want them. And we just find we get consistently better quality Hawthorn leather through using the muffin cases. Okay, so if you imagine you're doing this properly, you'll have this filled up, and you just go through, keep on filling up the muffin cases, and a little goes a long way, because you don't need much per, because it's only 3 or 4 mil per muffin case, a little goes a long way. So this has done that little bit in there has done a whole tray, pretty much. Well, it will do a whole tray actually. So you can imagine if that was half filled, like I'll have in a minute, that will give you probably 5 or 6 muffin cases, which will give you probably about 50 to 60 individual Hawthorn Berry Leathers. If you cut those into half, so that's going to give you about 120 days worth of Hawthorn Berry Leather on a prophylactic dose. So any area where it's not spread out properly, just give it a bit of a spread out. And then all you need to do is turn your oven on the lowest possible heat. You don't want to cook these, you just want to dehydrate them, okay? So turn it on to the lowest possible heat, and you want to leave the door slightly open because you want the moisture to be able to escape. You don't want the moisture staying in the oven, you want the moisture to escape. So all you do, put that in your oven, and you need to leave that. It's going to be probably a good 2, 3, 4 hours, depending upon the consistency and the thickness. So it needs to, when you'll know when it's ready, because it will be like bendy leather. You can, it's not. If you touch it, it's not wet. It won't stick to your finger. You can bend it like a leather belt. Okay. Once it's like that, all you do is take out the muffin cases, store them in an airtight kilner jar in the fridge, cut them up into 2 or 3 centimetre squares, and have 1 square every day, just to keep your heart and vascular system in tip-top condition as a prophylactic for heart disease. It's such a great tonic recipe for that. So go out, get your Hawthorn berries, make your leather, use the leather every day. Also, you can make the tincture, dry some for teas, make the Hawthorn berry ketchup. It's such an important herb to know about, and such an important herb to make medicine from.